I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Barons win! Barons win!
Cody Jansen stopped 92 out of 95 shots, including a penalty shot in overtime. Somehow he still only wound up the third star of the game.
You like that?
Jansen has a heart.
You're smoking crack!
And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the madness. Welcome to the chaos. Welcome to That Is Everything Crazy with psychiatric help needed for all these general managers after today. Welcome to Free Agency here on World Hockey Report. I am the insider to the insiders, Tyler Q, alongside Cody Jansen, live remotely. I'm in the ProRocc Hockey Studios here. Best ProRocc Hockey Sticks out there, guys. Be sure to go out and check them out at ProRocc.com for the best balanced and customizable sticks on the market today. Cody Jansen, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Are you rocking out there or what? I'm hearing music in the background. It's you just got to part.
It's been an awesome day indeed. I had the music playing, but unfortunately our producer forgot to put it on repeat, so that's why the music changed to a different song. It was a great start.
We'll chalk that one up to producer.
Yeah, that's what we got to do, because unfortunately I am if I was producing this show, it would look like, like an 8-bit show from like 1997 or something like that on TSN4, which didn't even exist back then. Hello, DJ Squishy. How you doing, buddy? He says, go Oilers. They've had a big 36 hours, let's say here, Janner. We're going to get to all the signings and more. We got a lot of guests here on today's World Hockey Report at World Hockey RPT. Jump in the conversation as well in the live chat room. Holy cow, there's just so much going on. Signings galore, not just the NHLers, but also a couple of big-name prospects. Uri Slafkovsky and Shane Wright have both signed their ELCs with their respective clubs. Of course, Slafkovsky signing with Montreal, Shane Wright in Seattle. The Kraken have been a little bit busy as well. Emoy says hello. Emoy, how are you doing there, sir? Yeah, we're going to have the little ticker going on down low. Just let people know what has happened so far, because Janner, when the noon hour hit Eastern time, 10 o'clock Mountain time, I tell you, it's been chaos ever since.
It's been like 5 o'clock this morning. I woke up, started gassing coffee, landed, see what insights I could get, texted a few guys, we played with. It's like, how can you get some sort of insight on a couple of trades? And of course, you know, all the big guys.
Oh, yeah.
But there's still some here and there that World Hockey Report we can pick up on. Don't kid yourselves.
Yeah, no, there's been a couple that have flown under the radar. Of course, we were pretty hard on the Andrew Kopp story going to Detroit. Now, granted, that one has been rumored for a little bit here, but first inclination over the first, let me look at my thing, a little over 3 hours of free agency now. There's been hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars handed out. According to Cap Friendly right now, the total contract dollars is it's a little under $700 million already today. Which has been the biggest one for you so far?
Wow, it's got to be the goaltenders. Like, if we're talking about like big, if we're going to Washington or Campbell to Edmonton, although we kind of knew that those were, I think just them actually solidifying it makes you think, and you're like, oh damn, now they got goalies. Canada kind of scary here. Like Edmonton solidifying a number one goaltender, obviously huge. I think of re-signings, the biggest one's Robert Thomas for me. Sergachev, and everyone expected that. Everyone knew that the Russian was staying there. Robert Thomas getting an 8x8. That's massive. I mean, there's been a lot of guys leaving and everything. Just can get Connor Brown. That'll be huge. I don't know. What's your big teams?
Well, man, I tell you, Edmonton has really they've really knocked it out of the park in the last little bit here. And Kenny, and yes, it's easy to say that a guy has done great so far. Dylan Kaiser saying, what's up, boys? Dylan, how you doing there, buddy? Hope you're doing well there. But it's easy to say right now because obviously getting Evander Kane at that dollar amount, officially signing, let me make sure I get my numbers right here. Holy cow, I have so many notes here. It's crazy. 5.125 AAV for the next 4 years. Not bad. They also re-signed Brett Kulak for 2.75 for the next 4 years as well. So helping out a little bit on the back end too. But you get Jack Campbell, and for me, it was tough, Janner, because everyone, of course, we'll get to the Matt Murray situation in a second and the goaltending situation a little bit later on with the Leafs in general here. But I really thought Jack Campbell was going to make more than 5 because I figured, I tried to crunch the numbers myself, even though I'm not a mathematician, I'm more of a statistician and understanding that sort of thing. But I thought if it came at $5 million, the Leafs could afford it. Well, obviously we learned that's not the case, but yes, there's the retention. And like I said, we'll talk about that later. It's hard to say that they're not going to be able, the Leafs couldn't afford a $5 million goaltender. And now they've spent
I don't think they
$5
couldn't
million.
afford it, Tyler. They chose. They didn't want Jack Campbell. So I don't know if that's motivation to prove them wrong or if there's actually something wrong or something behind the scenes that it doesn't. And again, is there a bigger risk than we're thinking for the Edmonton Oilers right now? Because 5 for a starter like nowadays, that's nothing. I was shocked it's only like $250K. Those two were going to gouge the market. Like there's so many teams that need number ones. I thought they were both 6.5.
Yeah, and it's a great move, of course, for you mentioned for Campbell, but Darcy Kemper, that for some reason that was one of the few contracts or one of the few signings that we all thought was going to happen at 12:01. Didn't happen until not too long ago, but I think within the last hour or so. Signing with the Washington Capitals, 5.5.
Put it out at 5:51 this morning, Tyler. Don't worry.
Oh, yes. No, sorry.
For the Washington.
World Hockey Report, we put it out at 5 o'clock this morning. You're correct. I'm talking officially from the National Hockey League. They just
Sasky connections over everything.
Can you imagine if you guys were on like the Maritimes? You guys would be like waking up and scaring everybody with this sort of stuff. Now, granted, that was what happened last night when Evgeny Malkin re-signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins for a few years indeed. And that was a big one because we were unsure that was even going to happen, Janner, because we knew Chris Letang signed at 6 years for 6.1, but we heard that Malkin was going to test free agency. We're like, oh my gosh, here it goes. Minnesota Wild. They're going to get a guy, another Russian. And then last night happened. He signs for another 6 by $6.1 million. Does that shock you at all?
No, you can't imagine Malkin in another jersey. Like they're just kind of like the whole of Vander Kate. It's like, call my bluff or like it just didn't seem like it was going to be a fit from the get-go. So I really
kind of cut out there for a second, Janner. Sorry about that.
I said I wasn't that shocked. I think they were clearly trying to call their, want or else I'm gone. If not, I'm really not that shocked. Also, Brent Burns, what a pickup for them. That's an awesome one. Like David Perron, these are some legit gamers moving around. Finney Trocheck signing with the Rangers. It's been this is what you want at a free agent frenzy. You don't want the guy sitting around bitching about like NHL. Shut up, no one cares. Get off my feet. Like I want to see absolute chaos. I told you that from the start, and that's what we're getting.
And it happened, like we mentioned, all at a bunch at one time. And a couple signings that just came down the wire. Of course, right before we went live, Andrei Burakovsky signing with the Seattle Kraken. No longer with the Colorado Avalanche. He signs for $5.5 million. We'll get to Dylan's comment here in just a moment. David Riddick securing the backup position, it seems like, with the Winnipeg Jets signing for 1 year at $900K. My goodness, my phone is just going off like crazy. And it's probably for the best as well, so it knows I'm up to date with what's going on. But let's talk about this one a little bit, Janner. We talked about Andrew Kopp coming to Detroit. Now, this one, like I mentioned off the top of the show, it's been rumored, it's been discussed. Michigan boy coming back home, all yada, yada, yada. Played for the Wolverines, all that good stuff under Red Berenson. I was skeptical, though, because I was unsure if the Jets were really going to make a pitch. But what we're seeing now in Winnipeg, and that's going to, that's something we can talk about when we get more into the offseason, is they're kind of doing a retooling and reorganizing. And because I thought maybe they're going to try to make a push for him after they sent him to the Rangers. And maybe the Rangers are going to have to go after Kopp with the way his playoffs went. But he signs with Detroit here. What is your thoughts on this move? Because the Red Wings, with a couple other things they've done recently, they look like a pretty good hockey team.
Don't kid yourself, Tyler. They're not a good hockey hockey team. I like the
I'm not cheering for them. I'm just saying we'll get to the goaltending here in a second, but they're making strides.
Making strides. That's fine. I'll take off your Red Wings jersey for you. But like Andrew,
it was a Chris Osgood jersey I got when I was like 9. Come on, man.
I think of like a good role model is that guy. Like not like, oh, he's a grandpa in the dressing room. He's not Joe Thornton, but I think of young players to see the work, the effort, the attitude he puts into his career, value in that contract where, yeah, maybe it is a little bit more than you expect to spend, but I also think that there's a ton of value in that. So you bring in a guy like Perron. These are perfect veterans for your young guys. Like these are guys and up and comers looking up to. So I like the move. I do. I think the eyes are plans in motion.
Oh yeah, it's in motion and quickly moving as well. And of course, they just got Marco Kasper, who is expected to be a big prospect as well. They also they brought in Ben Sherratt and Olli Mata. I know Mata is not the same Mata that he was back with Pittsburgh in the early 2010s. I understand that. And Sherratt's not the same guy that left Winnipeg all those years ago, but it gives an established presence on defense that around most Seider they need, because obviously Seider has established himself as one of the top young NHL defensemen in this league. But once again, if the Red Wings want to make strides towards being a competitive hockey club, they need more than just one guy on defense. You can't just have Bobby Orr. You got to have a couple other guys around him.
I like the Sherratt addition. I don't like the Olli Mata one, though. That's what, like $250K less than Brett Kulak got? They're even comparable. It's like trying to compare Ilya Mikheyev to Evander Kane on the ice. Apart players. Like, that's kind of a gross overpay, and I don't think it was necessary effective, although it's short term. It's a 1 year, and he's probably gone after that. Maybe it can move. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit of a weird one. I do like Sherratt, though, although he's not in his prime. Clinter.
Yeah, no, it's another move that it's more like, well, like what happened with Mark Stahl. Of course, Mark Stahl, who recently just signed for minimum with Florida here in the last little bit as well. It's one of those moves where it's like, all right, you're not going to be our top guy. We just need a guy that's got experience and that can show a lot of the younger guys around. Of course, Stevie Yzerman, he's not afraid of bringing in, experienced, veteran, European defensemen as well, with the amount of youngsters that are coming in from Sweden, from Finland or whatnot. And especially with a young goaltender as well.
Kubalik to the Red by 2.5. That's breaking.
What?
Dominic,
did it just happen?
Kubalik to the 0.5. I love that addition. I thought Kubalik was a guy who potentially the Oilers are future. So that's that's a good hit. That's probably like a double in baseball terms. So like Dominic Kubalik to the Red Wings, 2 by 2.5. I like that one.
Where's that one coming in from? I'm looking for. Did I miss that one?
I'm not showing you my email.
Oh, it's your emails. Okay. Dominic Kubalik, though, coming to the Red Wings. That's big, too, because Chicago is obviously...
You got to trust World Hockey Report sources here, Tyler.
Well, I feel like you're looking like me. I got the TSN feed right in my office right here. I thought you were doing the same thing. I didn't know you were looking...
I don't have TSN on or any of them once in a while, but it pisses me off when I can find out trades and it's 5 minutes about it. Like, my mind moves so quick on free agent frenzy that I'm like 30 seconds. Like, get me the new trade or get me the new signing. Sorry.
Yeah, it's that's true. Of course, we got the hookups here, World Hockey Report. Janner, before we let you go here, before we let you get back to work, I got to ask you one question here. There's Johnny Hockey, there's Andre Palat, there's Nazem Kadri, and the two Stroms as well. Those are right now my 5 players to watch because everyone else has gotten signed today. Which of those guys gets signed first, and which of those gets signed to the most?
Okay, I just got another tip here. Let's break another one. Greg McKegg's going. So New York Rangers.
Greg. I was letting you talk about that one, and we also got Cale Clay going to the Sabres as well. But Greg McKegg to the Oilers, yes, that one just came through down my wire.
I didn't see that. I just got that one in too, so I don't mind that. Right, like he's a guy who's a journeyman essentially, right? Like can play center, can be a high draft pick, another former Erie Otter. Like I think he was before with Erie. believe so, but he played with guys like Connor Brown. So I'm also, you talk about which guys get signed first. I think Johnny Gaudreau is going to break here soon. I think Gaudreau is going to the Devils. They've been too quiet.
Yeah.
Something's up. So I think we're here. Dare I say?
I agree.
By the time your show's over, I'll say it's by the time Johnny Gaudreau is going to be New Jersey Johnny.
That one is great. And there we go. We got the Red Wings saying they Dominic Kubalik signed to a 2-year deal, confirming that the Red Wings did. Thank you very much, Janet, for that one. But yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, that's the big one, obviously, with the announcement made last night. Waiting until the last minute. Johnny Hockey, not almost Matthew Tkachuk-esque the way he kind of made that announcement, saying that he's not going to re-sign with the Calgary Flames. But like we said, New Jersey seems to be the option. No longer Philadelphia, because why would you want to play for Torts? But that's a discussion for a different time. Cody Jansen's been joining us here. I know he's been the co-host, but don't worry, he'll be back. We got a long offseason ahead of us here after this free agent frenzy. Janner, thank you very much for stopping by, friend, and we'll definitely talk down the line and enjoy the rest of your evening and the madness as well.
Love it. Get the chat buzzing. I'll be in there.
Cody Jansen, ladies and gentlemen, from World Hockey Report, literally right here, guys. He's here every single week, just like all of you in the chat as well. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. In about 10 or so minutes time, we're going to have Stephen Ellis from the Hockey News. He's been hard at work typing away. He's probably got carpal tunnel at this point with all of these contract signings. By the way, the craziest thing, we'll get to some more of the signings that have happened today as well. DJ Squish, I'll throw this one back up there. Arizona is hard to trade when they want more than a first round and a prospect for Jacob Chychrun. That one's an interesting move for sure. I really agree that Chychrun is, I mean, you got to ask for a high price for a guy like him, especially when you want as much in return for your best defenseman. That was what happened, of course, with Connor Garland going to Vancouver. The Oliver Ekman-Larsson had to get thrown in the deal because they wanted to get rid of that contract to Vancouver, but they got a good chunk of that back. They got, of course, Jay Beagle, Antoine Roussel, and a couple of other draft picks and whatnot. But yeah, Dominic Kubalik, that's a big one as well. Remember the guy that was in the Calder Trophy running a couple of years ago when he scored 31 goals in his rookie season, and that was in a rookie season. That wasn't even the full 82 games. That was 1920, of course, as we all remember as well. JT Miller is still a Canuck. That's what Dylan Kraser just throws out there. Who am I missing on these tweets here, guys? My goodness, so much going on here right now on World Hockey Report. But as I was saying before we got to more of the chats there, one of the crazy things that came out today in the midst of all of this. Sorry, yes, I'm looking at my phone while I'm doing this. Call me unprofessional, but I have both my phones working too. Both my phones are going off right now with signings and what have you. Oh my gosh, forgot Nino Niederreiter is still on the board right now. He is still a free agent. We'll go down through some of these as we go throughout the day as well. As you mentioned, Pat Micheletti coming on in hour number 2. He'll be talking Minnesota Wild and what he thinks is going on, as well with Peyton Turnage coming up later on. We'll be talking the Predators and more of his reaction to what's going around the National Hockey League. But for those that are, fans of other sports, like literally right on the air, it's crazy to think of what's going on. Dylan, the guys on Sportsnet are taking calls on air. I think you're good to check your phone. That's true. Well, yeah, they check their phones because, those guys get paid a lot of money. And of course, Rogers pays for their phones. So I'm pretty sure if they are not on their phones using Rogers Communications, which is finally back, of course, for all of our friends north of the border that had that problem last week, I'm sure it's been a great time. Dylan Kaiser says, great show as well. Dill, thank you very much there. Good, sir. But the Toronto Blue Jays were bored, apparently. They thought they were going to be left out of the news today after beating the Philadelphia Phillies last night. They fired their manager, Charlie Montoyo, gone. Just in the middle. Like, there's all this chaos. There's Campbell getting signed. There's Darcy Kemper. There's Andrew Kopp getting signed. Oh, by the way, the Toronto Blue Jays firing their manager. Smack dab in the middle of everything. And I'm just like, couldn't you wait a couple hours? And yes, obviously they kind of have to make a move before they have a game tonight. They don't want to just fire their manager an hour before first pitch. I understand that. But man, that would have just been something else indeed. 10 or so minutes, guys, until, like I said, we have Stephen Ellis coming on. But let's run down some of these signings that we have had today. The big ones, of course. Claude Giroux going to the Ottawa Senators. This move here, this was the first big one of the day. because Claude Giroux was rumored to go to Ottawa, but there was whispers he might go somewhere else. We're kind of just waiting to see what was going to fall in place. And then 3 years by $6.5 million for him. And DJ Squishy saying, wait, Montoya, why? Well, that's unfortunately, I have my theories. The team itself has been up and down so much this year. They're fourth in the American League East, and yes, they're in a playoff spot, but man, there's something else. Anyway, sorry, Claude Giroux, before my ADD brain goes elsewhere here, Claude Giroux signs, and this is interesting because, yes, Ottawa is not a playoff contender yet, but you got to think they're going to be better, right? This is a team that just traded for Cam Talbot. They offloaded the contract of Matt Murray. Granted, they retained 25% of it. Yes, Connor Brown has been on the trade block all day today, with Edmonton being connected to that as well. Kenny Holland not keeping that phone down for too long of his. But you got to think the Senators are really going to make a jump this year. Honestly, guys, tell me a team in the Atlantic Division outside of the Montreal Canadiens that doesn't have a shot to make the playoffs. The Detroit Red Wings have Alex Nedeljkovic, who, despite the poor defense in front of him, didn't have a bad year. And now they brought in Ville Husso, who's coming off a career year with the St. Louis Blues, on a defense that, is tough at times, but a little shaky as well. Of course, they got Larkin, they got Seider, they got Raymond. They brought in experience with Ben Sherrod as well. Like, this Detroit team's not going to be a shabby hockey club. Andrew Kopp, obviously, we mentioned that as well. Mentioned Buffalo. They keep Vinny Hinostroza. Victor Olofsson's been re-signed. There is going to be some potential for improvement there as well. They also bolstered up the goaltending a little bit. I know they brought in, who they bring in today? They brought in Eric Comrie, the longtime minor leaguer, but a guy that's, deserving of a shot. And we know Craig Anderson wants to stay there as well. And interesting to see what's going to happen. Dustin Tokarski signed with Pittsburgh today as well. Looks like he's going to be the third stringer with the Penguins, barring any other moves as well. Trying to keep up to date with some maneuvers going on here. Let's see. Nick Patan signing a 2-way deal with the Minnesota Wild. Saw him quite a bit with the Marlies over the last couple of seasons. Alex Lyon heading to the Florida Panthers. And Sheldon Rempal, 2-way with Las Vegas. So now we're starting to see a lot of the smaller contracts. I mentioned Cale Clegg heading to the Buffalo Sabres as well. So lots still going on here today across the National Hockey League. Yes, that's right, DJ. That is 100% true. Detroit got some nice rookies, Seider and Raymond, and some other young guys as well. Jonathan Berggren, I've been able to see him in Grand Rapids. I think there's a good upside to him. But that is, of course, the big one, Claude Giroux. Jack Campbell, we mentioned that, the one we all expected, 5x5 with the Edmonton Oilers, joining former Leaf teammate Zach Hyman as well. Yeah, you're right. Yes, you only had a few, maybe 1,000 and some left off the board when you took in Matt Murray's contract, 75% of it. It's one of those things where you make your bed and you got to lie in it now. Kyle Dubas signed the big guns, the big long contracts, Matthews, Marner, Tavares. I know Nylander's not big there, but Riley's getting $8 million and whatnot. So you had to make some cuts in other places, and that most certainly being goaltending right now. And Matt Murray's had some awful seasons, but here's why I'm going to try to be Mr. Positive with the Toronto Maple Leafs here. Why wouldn't I be? Because I want this team to win a gosh darn cup so I can have another championship parade in Toronto. The one with the Raptors was so much fun and chaotic. Why not try to do it again with the Maple Leafs, Canada's team, as Conn Smythe coined them many, many moons ago, and to much to the chagrin of every other fan of the Canadian market. But I tell you what, it's a move getting Matt Murray because you got him for nothing. Future considerations. What does that mean? Well, you can get something later on down the line, but really you don't have to. You don't really have to give anything back to the Ottawa Senators, but what have they got instead? They got 2 draft picks and a goaltender that has 2 Stanley Cups under his belt. Now, yes, they've been talking a lot today that it wasn't just him. Marc-Andre Fleury was there, and Marc-Andre Fleury was in the net for the first half of the 2017 Cup run prior to the series in Ottawa because Murray was hurt. I understand all of that discussion. But the fact of the matter is this, he's still a good goaltender. And if you can platoon him with Ilya Samsonov, who the Leafs got for just 1 year at $1.8 million, you're paying for 2 goaltenders right now for a little over 5. So for what you could have paid, or is it 5.5, I think, almost $5.5 million between Murray and Samsonov, You get those two guys for a little bit more than what you would have paid just to have Campbell in your lineup. And then, yes, I like Eric Källgren. I'll say that right now. I thought Källgren has a really great upside, but obviously the brass doesn't have enough confidence in him yet. And it's not a thing of, well, let's give Källgren a shot. It's more or less, hey, we need to win now, so we have to put ourselves in the best situation. And I know there's the whole Sioux Greyhounds connection, and everyone's going crazy about that. I get that. But 100%, I think this is not a bad move at all. Dylan Kaiser said, bit off topic, but how many teams, cough, the least, would they just go back and sign Markstrom to a 6x6 deal? Well, you know, a lot of them would have been okay with that. Of course, Markstrom, a Vezina candidate this past season. And, of course, Dylan's doing his best to make everyone with the Edmonton Oilers a little bit angry as well. A finalized deal coming down with the Florida Panthers. Colin White, a cheap contract there to bolster up their back end. 25 years old, $1.2 million for 1 year. Avionics. Who did Claude sign with? Avionics. I'll tell you right now. He signed with the Ottawa Senators, the team right in his hometown. Obviously, he's going to be a hometown boy. He's going to get a lot of fanfare, and maybe that's where he wants to end his career, right down the road from his parents, his family, friends that he grew up with. Awesome news, awesome story for the, I almost said young man. The elder gentleman. I think he's got to be the oldest player on that team, right? I don't think anyone's older than Claude Giroux than that very young Edmonton Oilers team. Avionics and hi Dylan. Nice to see you guys. Good to hear. DJ Squish says, but Campbell is much better. They lost the trade and lost Campbell. It's hard to say that that's. I get what you're saying, DJ. But then I go back to my previous statement. It's hard to lose a trade when you didn't give anything up. That's my thing. That's what I say in that sort of maneuver with Jack Campbell. And let's kind of look at some other ones here before we go to break. A couple minutes, actually. Let's one more before we go to break here. Vincent Trocheck. That's the other one I really want to mention. With the New York Rangers, 7 years, $5.625 million. Hot commodity in Carolina. They're making some moves, some changes. We'll discuss those in a little bit as well because they made a trade, a big one earlier today as well. But that's a big move for the Rangers, solidifying their depth down the middle a little bit. Also, Trocheck can play wing. So I really think the Rangers, they're trying to know that, hey, you know what? We need to get better. We need to be good. Because obviously you come a couple wins from a Stanley Cup Finals appearance. Well, you might want to bolster up a little bit, and Vinny Trocheck might be that guy. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick pause here. When we come back, though, Stephen Ellis from the Hockey News will join us to talk about what's been going on, what signings have shocked him, what trades have shocked him, and what does he expect to happen later on throughout the day. All that more coming up here on World Hockey Report.
The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can feel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right, make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all the major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Travel the world and watch sports with Sports Travel Tours. How about the English Premier League? Get up close at one of the F1's Grand Prix from Monaco to Singapore and beyond. To the NFL packages, the games in London and to any across the U.S. Watch the Oilers and Flames with road trip packages to Vegas and beyond. Or if you're a hockey nut like us, the Spangler Cup is a must-see event. Watch Canada this December in Davos at our favorite championship of the year. For details and more, visit sportstraveltours.com today.
Get ready to win with Billy's Smelling Salts. Billy's Smelling Salts are for gamers, athletes, and competitors alike who want to get in the zone. Us at World Hockey Report teamed up with Billy's, and if you use the promo code WHR when checking out, you'll save yourself some money. The highest quality smelling salts in the game and at the best price point if you use the promo code WHR on Billy's. Billy's Smelling Salts. Get ready to win.
And welcome back, everyone, here to World Hockey Report on this free agent frenzy day. My goodness, guys, this has been nuts. It's been insane. And I will say this. Maybe you guys haven't noticed by the fact that I've been panicking, scrambling, throwing phones everywhere, and yelling at the top of my lungs. This is my first live free agent show ever. Inside of the Insiders, Tyler Kuehl here. Cody Jansen had us in the first segment of today's show. Coming up here, we're just waiting and standing by for the hockey news of Stephen Ellis. He's been giving himself carpal tunnel and probably needs wrist surgery after today with all the writing he has to get done here on this free agent frenzy day. A couple other big signings in the past week as well. Some re-signings that we can mention. A couple of the most notable ones. Actually, let's bring in the guy now himself to get his thoughts on a couple of these. He is from the Hockey News. He is writing his brains out today. He is so busy that he's been able to take a few minutes of his day with us. We appreciate it so much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show from the Hockey News. It's Stephen Ellis. Stephen, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Question for you, though. Do we need to use that free healthcare you guys have north of the border to help your hands and your fingers out after today?
Well, so I've the one thing I'm doing is I'm doing the tracker for every signing, but the whole thing is I don't care how small the deal is. So we've been doing all the 1 year, 2-way deals, all these deals like you don't care about. And I think I got 9 more that I've missed. So we'll catch up on those. But it's been a day.
So how big is Kale Clay going to Buffalo? How is that going to impact the Sabres?
Well, I can't argue that. To me, that's the number 1 team in the league right now.
The Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, no. Well, Victor Olofsson. Okay, are you joking with me or are you being serious? Because I can ask you.
Well, their goalies are awesome. Eric Comrie and Craig Anderson and Malcolm Subban. That's a team that's going to win the Stanley Cup.
I tell you what, man, I'm trying not to bust out laughing. I know you're messing me right now, and I know everyone that's down the 403 is probably going to come flying across the border that they hear you say that. But we have a lot of people. Thank you all very much for joining us here on World Hockey Report. They're all jumping in the chat, Stephen, but I got to ask you, we had a bunch of signings today, but there's been a lot of re-signings and extensions as well. Tampa with signing a bunch of their guys on the back end, and Anthony Cirelli as well, Mikhail Sergachev and Eric Chernak, all 8-year contracts. How bad are the Lightning going to be in 2032?
Well, let's figure that out in 8 years. But yeah, no, honestly, like they've gone to go get their core. They've tried to put their group together, and I think it works out. So put it this way, Tampa Bay is going to be a contender for about as long as we saw Pittsburgh being a true contender, and Tampa's got a good few years of being maybe one of the favorites still in the league. So I like those signings.
Yeah, they're going to be good for a few more years, and obviously everyone's like, oh, $54 million among, I think, 7 or 8 players in not this season, but next season with Sergachev's extension kicking in next year. And it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be the stars and the scrubs for the Lightning. But hey, it's kind of worked for them. They're able to figure out their guys in the bottom 6. A couple other depth pieces, though, they do sign today. They bring back Vladislav Nemesnikov for 1 year at $2.5 million, as well as Ian Cole for 1 by 3 as well. Was there a team right now, Stephen, from what you've noticed, that's been underlying making some really good moves? Obviously, everyone's looking at Edmonton. They're doing a lot of great stuff. Washington secured their goaltending. Toronto is a thing that everyone's liking to yell and scream about. Ottawa is looking better. But what team in your eyes says, you know what, they're making some moves here and that might help them next season?
Well, I don't think this team's making a ton of super impactful moves, but I like what they've been doing, and that's the Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, they go out there and bring out Ville Husso a couple days ago. They go and add David Perron. We still don't know the details of his contract yet, but he will be joining the team. Dominic Kubalik's a decent pick there. I believe Andrew Kopp, another one there. They added Sherrod on defense, Ollie Mata. So this is a team that's going to be a little tougher to play against. Are they a playoff team? Not yet, but they're building towards what they're going to be able to do in a few years. And I do like what they're doing today. But they're ones I'm liking. I'm loving what Edmonton's doing. Obviously, going out there and getting Jack Campbell. That, to me, that was the biggest concern. Get a good goalie. They got that. They signed Evander Kane for a couple of years. They've been able to just make this team just overall better. So Edmonton and Detroit are the two ones I'm looking at for sure.
Yeah, Detroit. I mean, Janners was shooting me down when I said that Detroit could be challenging for a playoff spot. But I'm like, hey, in this league, if you have two good goaltenders, I mean, it's especially in this Atlantic Division where I threw out I jokingly asked the question today, who's going to win the Atlantic Division? But I'll be honest with you, Stephen. See, this is how this day has gone for me, Stephen. I don't know who I'm talking to anymore. Stephen Ellis from the Hockey News is who I'm chatting with right now. Who wins the Atlantic today?
This is too early to tell. For me, I do really like still Tampa Bay's odds for that. I still think Tampa Bay is going to be very good, even if they don't have Andre Palat. I still think they've got a group where you're looking at and saying, again, these guys are going to be near the top for a while. Florida losing Giroux, I think that maybe, and Marchman, that's going to knock them down a peg, but I still think Florida be good. And then, of course, you got to look at the Leafs. And the concern now is their goaltending. I don't know if I have any confidence in that. But for me, for sure, Atlantic, if I had to pick, it's Tampa Bay.
Tampa, and I know people are like, oh, but Florida's not doing anything. I'm like, well, you really, you kind of tough to with Alexander Barkov's contract coming up, but they still pretty much have just about everyone on board, including the big acquisition of Mark Stahl. Like that's going to really turn things around for them. But of course, they bring in Colin White, which we mentioned as well. I want to get your thoughts a little bit here with the Washington Capitals, because the Caps, of course, they announced they weren't going to bring back Ilya Samsonov, and they traded Vitek Vanacek away. But obviously this was all a plan by Brian McClellan to bring in Darcy Kemper. And I wonder, I would love to have Kevin Woodley's conversation with this, because him and I are very similar. We like to look at how teams play style-wise and if it would work or not. Darcy Kemper, of course, a Stanley Cup winning goaltender. Does that fit work with the Capitals, though, is the question, because that's a team that's older, a little bit slower, kind of gave up a few more shots than they would have liked in the second half of the season when the fatigue started to wear in for the old guys. And it's going to be a lighter team, a lesser team that he's going to be playing with Darcy Kemper. Does that fit in DC?
I think so, because he's definitely an improvement of the two goalies they were using, Samsonov and Vanacek, just were not getting the job done. They need to get someone who could be that number one stable guy, and they got it. And I do like Trey Lindgren as a backup. This is a guy who looked really good for the Blues last year, looked very good in the AHL, and I think could be someone worth kind of keeping an eye on here. But for Kemper to go out there and get one of the big signings, that's their big guy. Obviously, they got to worry about what the future of Nick Backstrom is, but I think that of the free agent options that was really going to move the needle for this team, I think Kemper is probably the guy they had to get, and they got him. So I think that maybe, I don't know if it prolongs Washington's cup contention, because it's really all about what happens with Ovechkin for the long run. But I do think that with Kemper there, they've got a guy who will give them the best shot possible.
Yeah, because it's good because that was the problem with Washington last year. I got to cover them for a little bit, and I really saw the fact that the team didn't have an established number one. I mean, Peter Laviolette was like, all right, this guy's playing well. Now the other guy's playing well. And, oh, look, Zach Fucale. And now this guy's playing well. Like, that's how it kind of was with their goaltending situation. A couple other notable signs we haven't mentioned yet. Ilya Mikheyev, no longer with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's going to the other side of the continent. He's going to be playing with the Vancouver Canucks for $4.75 million over the next, well, not over the next 4 years, for each of the next 4 seasons. I really like that move for Vancouver. I think the team's getting better there. What do you think of the Rangers, though? Of course, we know they sent Alex Georgiev over to Colorado. He then signs an extension with them. They bring in Yaroslav Halak, a veteran presence, to back up Igor Shesterkin. And, of course, they bring in Vincent Trocheck from the Carolina Hurricanes in free agency as well. The Rangers are putting themselves in an odd position. They don't try to re-sign Andrew Kopp. They don't try to, Ryan Strome obviously is hitting the market here as well. But this is a Rangers team that feels like that they just need to move a couple pieces in place to make an even deeper run after bowing out in the conference finals last year.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say one of my early picks to win the cup this year are the Rangers, because I'm very confident in their goaltending. I'm very confident in their offense. For me, the biggest question was what was their defense unit going to look like. And I think adding Patrick Nemeth there could at least give that physical presence a boost. And I do think we're going to continue to see Andre Miller get better, Braden Schneider, guys like that continue to improve on the ice. So going out there and getting a guy like Trocheck, he's your number 2 center. Long-term deal for sure, but I think you keep him there for as long as you're in true contention. And Halak being there, I really like that one too, just because, you know, he didn't have the greatest year in Vancouver, but I think that Demko also kind of exceeded expectations based off of what that defense core was. And I think that Halak, I know he's older now, I still think he's got a couple of good years left of hockey, and in spurts can be good. And that's all I need him to be, because Georgia was not great last year. So they lost some games they should have won because their goaltending wasn't good. You're relying a lot on Halak. I do think he's capable of getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, he is older, but for some reason he seems like that kind of guy. He did it with the Islanders a little bit, and obviously remember his days in St. Louis as well, in Montreal before that. The guy can seal a game or two. Dylan Kaiser saying, good Branson getting 4x4 in CBJ, LOL. Well, you know, Columbus has got to spend some money on some players. I mean, a good Eric Goodbranson keeping his career going. I want to get your thoughts on the big trade of the day so far, of today. Obviously, there have been trades up the wazoo over the past week, including the draft, including Kirby Dach going to Montreal, and Montreal booing Gary Bettman, all that other stuff that happened on the draft floor. But Brent Burns going to Carolina. Now, there's an odd pattern that I've been noticing. It sounded like Brent Burns might have been going to Dallas, but then all of a sudden he got traded to Carolina, allegedly filling the role that Tony DeAngelo left when he was traded to Philadelphia. We'll get to that in a little bit later on in today's program as well. But what do you think of this move for the Hurricanes? Because they left, obviously, Trocheck off the board. They left him. They got picked up by the Rangers. Still on the board right now is Niederreiter. For a guy that like Rod Brindamore that says he needs more goal scorers, he gets a defenseman that can play offensively as well. In your eyes, does that work with his system of being a guy that can, you know, Carolina, we've always talked about how great their defensive structure is, but maybe Brent Burns is that guy that can play on the back end, but also play up front as well.
For sure. He started his career as a forward, obviously moved back to defense and had a very good career there. When you look at the defense core, you're looking at Slavin, Brady Shea, Rhett Petchy. You're going to get Jake Gardner back. It'll take a while for him to be full speed. And then you throw in Brent Burns, and that's a pretty good group. Of course, you got to wonder, what's Ethan Bear's situation going to be like? And if Bear and Gardner are your third pair in defense, you could do a lot worse than that. So Burns gives his team a chance to he can play the power play. He can set those guys up like Jarvis and Teravainen, Aho, Netjes, Svechnikov. And so to me, that was a great pickup for them. Definitely kind of plays a very similar role on the ice that you get from Tony DeAngelo in terms of the offensive defenseman side things. So I think that's solid pickup, and it didn't have to give up any really key pieces of this team.
And also, you don't have to worry about Tony DeAngelo being, Tony DeAngelo. That's probably a good thing. You just have to worry about the beard and the beard shape. I almost said Brent Burns and beard shavings. That's not a thing at all. You don't have to worry about that ever. Now down there in Raleigh, a couple other trades. Pavel Zacha going to Boston. And for Eric Holla, that'll be an interesting move, obviously, from there. Ryan McDonough, of course, last week traded to Nashville. Today, Patrick Nemeth was traded to Arizona with a couple of picks as well for Ty Emberson. That obviously a cap dump by the Rangers, getting the junior rights to Ty Emberson. But, it's been a hectic week, Stephen. I'm trying to make sure I don't go overtime with you here because I know you're busy. And like you said, you missed a few. What has been the biggest move for you so far? Trade, re-signing, extension, signing today? What has been the earth-shaking move that's really caught your eye? That's something that you're going to keep an eye on as we go forward towards the regular season.
Okay, well, I'm going to downgrade it a bit, and I'm actually going to say my favorite signing of the day was actually Colin White to the one-year deal for Florida. Colin White showed a lot of promise.
You and Mike DiStefano talked about that today on Leafs Lunch on TSN 1050. When I was driving back, he said that, and I'm like, that makes sense. But yeah, go ahead.
He's a guy that had pretty good numbers early in his career, didn't really kind of make it work in Ottawa. Was the odd man out as the team continues to get better. Now he's got a chance to be kind of a reclamation project in Florida where you look at, they've done a few of those. Carter Verhaeghe, they've done Mason Marchment, guys like that have come out and be these big kind of not stars, but these big time producers for this team off of basically nothing contracts. I think Colin White has the opportunity to do that. We just got to see where Colin White's game is at that point. But in terms of the signing that's definitely catching my eye is the one that Jack Campbell to Edmonton. And, Obviously, the Leafs in a perfect world would have wanted to keep him. Didn't sound like they were making too hard of an effort to make that happen. But he's going out there, and that Oilers team, that they closed the hole. That to me was the biggest concern. And the defense, that is a big topic about how the Oilers defense wasn't so good in the playoffs. If Darnell Nurse was not playing on like 5% capacity, who knows what the Oilers could have done? Maybe they win a game or two against the Avalanche.
Yeah, that. I would say that's true indeed. And I tried to make the case earlier that, hey, look at that, you're barely paying over $5 million for your 2 goaltenders. But D. Ely he's trying to correct you, Stephen. He says that the Canes don't want Gardner back when you're talking about him on the third pair. A lot of other odd takes that we'll talk about here, but we got to let this gentleman go. From the Hockey News, Stephen Ellis has been joining us here on World Hockey Report. Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time today. Hopefully your fingers have come back, or there's some more blood flowing in those things, so you can get back at the writing there. Check him out, guys. The Hockey News at Stephen Ellis, THN. Stephen, thank you very much for taking the time as always, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Stephen Ellis, like we said, guys, from the Hockey News, one of my favorite guys I love talking to about hockey, of course, and racing as well. He's going to be at Honda Indy on Sunday, downtown Toronto. That's where it's going to be. I'm going to be doing a lot of wine tasting in Traverse City. I got my buddy of mine, broadcaster Harrison Watt from Ferris State. He is going to be getting married on Saturday. So that's why I'm missing. Actually, I could go to Toronto. Kelly, do you want to go to Toronto on Sunday? Nope. Wife says no. Can't do it. Sorry. Looks like I'm going to have to miss that race. The first time in 3 years that Toronto is hosting their IndyCar race. Breaking news, Jacob from loves THPN. Breaking news, avionics is higher than the sun. Oh boy, there is a lot of jibber jabber in between those two guys. Of course, Jacob loves THPN saying Vegas is going to win the 2023 Stanley Cup. Jacob, why haven't the Vegas Golden Knights have done anything yet? Oh wait, they don't have any money to sign anybody. With all the contracts they have locked up, obviously with the addition of Jack Eichel, and there's Mark Stone, Pietrangelo. However, whispers, though, that Max Pacioretty might be offloaded here. I heard that from a couple other people today, so we're going to have to keep our eyes on that. Max Pacioretty, speaking of former Michigan Wolverines, yes, I know you've made a couple of small moves, Jacob. I know. I'm just giving you snot. Wait, no, hold on. That was the wrong that comment's supposed to go up. There we go. We signed someone a few minutes ago. Yes, you guys did. That being, who was it? It was the minor leaguer guy. I said it on the show. I can't remember who it is. Fortunately, Cap Friendly is just full of signings today that there's so many that I can't find anyone. Anyways, long story short, there have been tons of signings. And let me refresh the page here to tell you how much money has been spent today, guys. Let's see if they have it up. They had it up a minute ago. Did they break this? Did the site break? I think Cap Friendly is broken, guys. So many contracts signed today. It was over $700 million last time I checked. Adam Bonilla, any word on Dylan Strome? Nothing yet. Been trying to see if he's being linked to anyone. I have not heard anything as of yet, though. That has been one of the guys that I have been keeping an eye out for because I really like his game. I think Dylan Strome, no offense, Adam, it didn't seem like it was a good fit in Arizona. Of course, Dylan Strome being drafted, him and Anthony Duclair both going to Arizona at the start of their careers. Sheldon Rempal, that's the guy that I think Jacob loves THPN is talking about for the Vegas Golden Knights, but nothing yet on Dylan Strome. He and Ryan Strome both on the market right now as we speak, including a couple other guys. Niederreiter we mentioned as well. Obviously, the couple of big fishes that got taken off the board. Evander Kane got re-signed last night with the Edmonton Oilers. Evgeny Malkin, Marc-Andre Fleury last week with the Minnesota Wild. Hence why the Wild were able to offload Cam Talbot. We'll talk about that in about 10 or so minutes with Pat Micheletti, Minnesota Hockey Insider, as well as former Minnesota Golden Gopher and former Minnesota North Star as well. We'll talk more about the Wild and what Billy Guerin has been up to in here in just a little bit. The Canucks signed Connor D'Elia. That's an interesting maneuver. Of course, if that's true, let me just make sure here. Sorry, I'm not trying to knock you there, avionics. I'm not trying to be a guy that's knocking you around. I just want to make sure. Because there's been a lot of whispers and whatnot, but that could be a possibility of Connor D'Elia going off. But we'll just have to wait and see, just make sure. But yeah, like I said, there's been a lot of signings and stuff that's gone haywire and sideways. But like I said, the big ones that are still left, Johnny Gaudreau, formerly of the Calgary Flames, made that announcement last night. Nazem Kadri, we knew he was going to hit the market. even though he said he wanted to stay in Colorado, we all knew that that dollar amount was going to be too high for a team in Colorado that already has the big extension, $9 million extension with $9 million per year extension with Cale Makar, and obviously the impending potential of whatever the heck Nathan MacKinnon is going to make in a couple of seasons. Also, John Klingberg, who was initially linked. I remember hearing that he was possibly linked to Carolina. That obviously has gone south because of the fact of Brent Burns now joining the fold with the Hurricanes. So John Klingberg is still on the market as of right now. A couple other guys that have been signed today. Nick Bjugstad going down to Arizona. There you go, Adam. You get yourself a solid defenseman. 1 year at $900,000, a fair price. Anaheim, even though it sounds like, I mean, it doesn't seem like they're getting anywhere near close to Sonny Milano. They're letting Sonny Milano go. He's still on the board. They do sign, though, Frank Vetrano, though, for $3.65 million AAV for the next 3 seasons. I like that move because, well, Anaheim, here's the thing about Anaheim, though. I like the move because, you add a guy with some veteran experience, Vetrano, former Panther, former Ranger, a guy that has been around the league and can help a lot of the younger guys that are coming in here to Anaheim. Here's the issue, though. I don't know what the plan is with the Ducks. I really think I think Anaheim had a chance to really make a push last year, but just they lost a few games and it just went south after that. And of course, there was the whole speculation that John Gibson's going to be moved. We're hearing, though, that John Gibson is not going to get moved. Or at least no one's really been able to put forth a legitimate offer to get John Gibson out of Anaheim. Obviously, I mean, I don't see why Pat Verbeek would not want to have a high price for who I still think is a really good goaltender in this league. I really still think that he has potential, John Gibson does, to be a number one guy. And if Anaheim can start to figure that out soon, put a team in front of them that can play well enough to be a playoff team, I think he's a guy that can get them to the playoffs. They just need more in front of him. Yes, they have the stars, they have Zegras, and now they're bringing in Vetrano. They just need to bolster that up a little bit more up front. That's why I'm shocked Sonny Milano was not offered a deal, at least not really made a solid push for him. A couple other big signs. We mentioned Andre Burakovsky getting the 4-year deal with the Seattle Kraken. I'm really liking that move because here's the thing. They have Yanni Gourde, and yeah, they traded away Colin Blackwell last year, but this and Jared McCann, of course, who had a great year for the expansion Kraken. They also brought in Justin Schultz as well to give a little bit more depth on the defensive end. You expect Chris Drieger and Philip Grubauer to be better this year for the Seattle goaltending. I'm not going to go in far and say, oh, Seattle's a playoff team now. I'm not going to do that. Not going to fool you guys there. But I will say this, though. I will say that Seattle is going to be a little bit better. And, of course, I forgot to mention Brandon Tanev. For some reason, everyone's favorite player there in Seattle. That guy is seemingly working out, too. So those are a couple moves that Seattle has made to deepen their lineup, to get better, have some more star power as well. I know Andre Burakovsky was a guy that, before Rantanen and before Makar came in, that he was kind of under the radar, but one of the top players on the hockey club in Colorado. And yeah, he had a little bit of a up and down playoff during the run of the Stanley Cup, but obviously showing that he has some potential to get enough money, over $4 million contract with the Seattle Kraken. Like I said, guys, in about 5+ minutes, we're going to be joined by Pat Micheletti to talk about the Minnesota Wild, the Wild who made a big move, sending Cam Talbot to the Ottawa Senators, bolstering their goaltending, but also making sure they secured theirs on the home front first with the signing of Marc-Andre Fleury, the re-signing for $3.5 million over the next 2 years. A couple other signings we'll mention here. We mentioned Toronto. They get Samsonov, Nick Aube-Kubel for $1 million for next season and $750K for Adam Gaudette. So trying to revamp that fourth line that they kind of had to shy away from. Obviously, Jason Spezza retiring. And a couple other signings as well. Nick Leddy signing for 4 years with the St. Louis Blues. He returns after getting traded to Detroit from St. Louis. As well as Thomas Greiss, looking to be the backup now for Jordan Binnington after Ville Husso was sent to the Detroit Red Wings. Thomas Greiss signing at $1.25 million for the next season. Adam Bonilla, that is right. You guys did sign Troy Stetcher earlier today for 1 year. Troy Stetcher, former Canuck, former Red Wing. a guy that's just going to give them a little bit of veteran experience, which makes me feel entirely old. Because I remember when Troy Stetcher was a kid coming into Vancouver singing Barbie Girl at the rookie party. And that was, if you guys haven't seen it yet, Troy Stetcher, look it up. Troy Stetcher singing Barbie Girl. He's not singing it. He's lip syncing it, but it is a video. Adam, I think you'd love it. I don't know why I think you'd love it, but it would be hilarious. Avionics came in with a hard chirp not too long ago. Hot take: Vegas won't make the playoffs next season. I don't know. It's still the Pacific Division. Avionics. It's anyone's guess, because I will say I expect LA to get back there. If Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick are still that 1-2, that 1A 1B tandem that they were last season, they revamped, they re-signed Adrian Kempe. Brendan Lemieux is back to add that little bit of snarl. Obviously, this will be Kopitar. Yeah, I know you're not going to see Dustin Brown anymore, but Drew Doughty's going to be healthy. Watch out for Los Angeles, guys. I really like LA and their potential of what they've been doing. They haven't really signed anyone off the free agent market yet. I think it's one of those things, though, where you don't want to try to make a move like that. Don't try to go after a big name guy, because you are still kind of developing. You still have Quentin Byfield, who's still fairly young as well. And, oh no. Oh gosh, who's the other big prospect for them? I can't think of him off the top of my head. This is great. This is going to be great podcasting right here, guys. I'm going to look up their roster quick, because I'm doing a great job of being prepared for stuff like this. Doobie doobie dooba doobie doobie dooba. Oh, Philip Deneau. Cam, they forgot that guy. Arthur Kaliev. Arthur Kaliev. Yes. He came in at the same time as Quentin Byfield. There's another guy that I have high hopes for indeed. Alex Turcotte. My goodness. Thank you very much. Mackenzie Willis jumping in here. Alex Turcotte, another great prospect, it's not prospect, great young player of this LA Kings team. That's another one. My goodness. Can't believe I forgot him. Thank you, Mackenzie, for jumping on that one. This is why I need more coffee. This is only my fifth cup of the coffee. Holy moly. Got to drink this faster. That's better. But no, yeah, I think LA is going to be a lot better. The Pacific Division is going to be still a mixed bag of tricks. But I tell you what, something that I am ready to see is going to be what's going to happen in Vancouver with two Elias Petterssons. That's right, Avionics. What do you think about Elias Pettersson II? I'm interested. I think a lot of the hype, of course, is because of the name. They both wear number 40. It's going to be interesting. And, if he makes it, awesome. Obviously not every guy that gets drafted in the draft, in the NHL draft, makes it to the NHL, but I think he's got potential. He's got some good bite to his game. So we'll certainly wait to see what comes out of him. Pittsburgh also with another signing earlier today, a little bit before the show started. 3 years, $2.75 per year for Stanley Cup champion Jan Rutta. Came from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Add some more defensive depth for them, because the Pittsburgh Penguins, as we've learned, guys, over the past week, this is a team that wants to win, and they still want to win, because they kept Chris Letang on, kept Evgeny Malkin on, even though we literally we thought we heard everything right, that he was going to test the free agency market, and then he didn't. And who was another one that got re-signed by Pittsburgh? Was it just them two? No, Rickard Rakell, who they picked up at the deadline recently, $5 million per year for the Penguins. Tristan Jarry, Casey DeSmith, and Dustin Tokarski looks like to be the third string goaltender, as Louis Domingue, shockingly of all things, Louis Domingue goes to the New York Rangers. So the guy that beat him in a triple overtime game, thanks to Spicy Pork, is now all of a sudden their third string goaltender. He said, hey, if we ever have that problem again where we hear goaltenders going down left and right for the Rangers, we have Louis Domingue. Official word on David Perron's contract with the Detroit Red Wings, 2 years, $4.75 million for David Perron. I like that deal because, it's only 2 years. So I know Larkin's contract's coming up here. And by that point, by the next 2 years, then you're going to have to start worrying about the extensions of both Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider going in there for the Red Wings. I like that a lot. But we got to take a break, folks, because when we come back, we're going to have Pat Micheletti on. But I got to remind you, though, first, the guys, that everyone is buying tickets online. So if you want to save some money at the next game or concert you go to, or even next season, sign up for SeatGeek and use the promo code WHR when checking out. It's simple on SeatGeek. SeatGeek.com, guys. Use the promo code WHR on your first purchase. You'll save $20. We'll be back with more World Hockey Report free agency madness right after this.
The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can feel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right, make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all the major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Travel the world and watch sports with Sports Travel Tours. How about the English Premier League? Get up close at one of the F1's Grand Prix from Monaco to Singapore and beyond. To the NFL packages, the games in London and to any across the U.S. Watch the Oilers and Flames with road trip packages to Vegas and beyond. Or if you're a hockey nut like us, the Spangler Cup is a must-see event. Watch Canada this December in Davos at our favorite championship of the year. For details and more, visit sportstraveltours.com today.
Get ready to win with Billy's Smelling Salts. Billy's Smelling Salts are for gamers, athletes, and competitors alike who want to get in the zone. Us at World Hockey Report teamed up with Billy's, and if you use the promo code WHR when checking out, you'll save yourself some money. The highest quality smelling salts in the game and at the best price point if you use the promo code WHR on Billy's. Billy's Smelling Salts. Get ready to win.
And welcome back here, everyone, here to World Hockey Report. Free agency madness here on this July the 13th, guys. Holy cow. Thank you very much for sticking it out with us here as we begin hour number 2 of our coverage today. Man, 51 signings totaled so far, and probably the best tweet from one of the players, Louis Domingue, asking on Twitter today, any suggestions for good spicy pork restaurant in NYC, asking for a friend. Oh, man, that's going to be some good stuff. NYC's got plenty of good meals as well. That's why check out Sports Tours, guys. Be sure to check them out and go travel and watch your favorite teams anywhere. But first, though, before you do that, we got to pay attention here because we're going to go up to the land of 10,000 lakes now because we're going to get the latest on what's going on with the Minnesota Wild, a team that is going to be in a cap crunch due to some buyouts with some very long contracts they had previously, but they seem to solidify their goaltending, or at least who their number one guy is. So with that, I need to talk to a guy that I have had a pleasure of chatting with a time or two. He kind of knows about the Minnesota Wild. He's played in Minnesota his entire career, pretty much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World Hockey Report, Pat Micheletti. Pat, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, Tyler. Good to be back with you. Yeah, it's pretty much cricket thus far. As you just alluded to, not much cap space, so roughly a little over $4 million with a couple guys yet to. Not expecting a lot. Signed a couple guys that potentially, could be up and down this year, but pretty quiet overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's for a team that you don't have a whole lot of moves. And I remember we were making the joke earlier with Jacob in the chat about the Vegas Golden Knights, because that's another team that's in a bit of a cap crunch indeed. But they knew what they were doing, the Wild. They knew that last year was the year. They signed Kaprizov. They knew they had the one down year after the big buyouts. We talked about that, of course, last year as well, and how important it was to make the run. They fell short, though. But how do you think Guerin has handled the offseason so far? Re-upping Marc-Andre Fleury for the next 2 years at a very reasonable deal, let's be honest, for a guy that just won the Vezina over a year ago. and having to offload Cam Talbot's contract. How do you think Billy Guerin has done so far?
Well, when you, I mean, we can look at it from different views. The way I see it, and I think the way Billy looks at it, all of his core players are signed. Now, granted, they had no moving Kevin Fiala, so you lose him. But when you have Kaprizov, you have Hartman, Eck, Foligno, and Greenway, all next few years. That's the core of your team, and with Brodin and Spurgeon are tied up now. Matt Dumba will be a free agent at the end. They got Johnny Merrill, who will not start the season due to a shoulder surgery, but he's tied up for the next couple of years. So I think, his team and understands that he's got his core guys, and he drafted some players that he put in the minors for a couple of years. Who was a full-time player last year, Connor Dewar, Marco Ross, Mitchell Chafee is a guy to keep your eye on for next year. So with the buyouts of what they did and what they're living with and what they're comfortable, you know what? He's saying, I've got to see what these get their opportunity with this team next year. So I think he feels like, again, and hope that the guys that we have are years that they had, and that our young kids show us what they can do.
Yeah, because with a team, especially in the salary cap era, because we talked about the Tampa Bay Lightning as well, how in a couple of years they're going to have, I think, 7 or 8 players that are going to be almost paying for $54 million. You need to find guys and find prospects that can fill up those gaps as well. And, for the Wild, like you said, they're going to be in a cap crunch for a little bit here. You're going to need guys to step up. I really like Connor Dewar. I think he has some great potential. I like him a lot. Yep. And of course they brought in recently as well, through a trade. They just signed Nick Patan today as well, to a 2-way deal. A guy with experience. Marco Rossi. Marco Rossi's a big one for me, Pat. Talk about him a little bit, because this is a guy that's seemingly been snake bitten since he's been trying to make it to the NHL. But we all know this kid's got a lot of potential still.
Well, he's a great kid, by the way. And nobody works harder. But let's not hear he was drafted, and going into training camp, and it was not good for quite some to battle back. So in essence, he missed the full year of hockey, and came to camp last year that, hey, he's got to get his timing back. He used to the pro, he had a terrific year in Iowa. Hurt a little bit, but he had a terrific. Now they think he's ready to make that jump, and quite frankly, a lot of really, really good things. He's really, really good on the power play. Exceptional, good skater, not a great skater. It works well with Matthew Boldy when they played together down in Iowa. So and length overall, and so I think he's really going to come and show these guys that he's ready to play. And listen, if it's very hard to replace a guy who had 85 point goals and has been in the league. That being said, and just take away some of that bite, yet improve their happy.
Yeah, because you need to have guys step up like that, and I think Rossi is getting to that point. One guy that's not signed yet, but obviously is going to be on the radar for many Minnesota Wild fans, and for multiple reasons. That's the guy, like I mentioned, they recently got in a trade, Brock Faber. Now, you yourself, you know that young man pretty well. I mean, you only get to broadcast Minnesota hockey. Lucky you.
Right.
Unfortunately, us in Michigan, we kind of get stuck with our guys. No offense to Western and Ferris. Love those guys to death. But Brock Faber with the Gophers has been obviously, increasingly one of the top players, not just in the Big Ten, but I think really if you even want to go the entire Western part of the NCAA, what is he going to, I mean, obviously not signed yet, but what do you think he's going to be able to bring to the Wild prospect pool moving forward down the line?
Well, in lieu of to tell you what other people have told me, and I've talked to David Quinn about him, I've talked to St. Cloud State, and I've talked to Mike Hastings, the head coach at Minnesota State. They had him at the World Juniors. He's a draft pick. He is NHL ready. In my opinion, he was, a top 3 defenseman in college hockey. You don't want to take anything away from the other guys, the Sandersons, the Power, because they're great players also. And I don't want to compare, make comparisons. Is ready to jump into the National Hockey League. He will be with the Minnesota Wild at the end of this season. So, in terms of what Bill Guerin for Kevin Fiala, when other teams in the league know that you can't sign him, I think Bill Guerin did a terrific. The return and the 19th overall pick, which turned out to be the Ogren kid from Sweden, and Brock Faber. I think that was a great reach to Minnesota Wild. But Brock Faber is the real deal. Now, player is he? A lot of people say, well, what, he hasn't put up a lot. Well, maybe he hasn't been put in a spot to contribute offensively. A Jackson Lacombe, a Kester, a Ryan Johnson are more power play guys. Brock hasn't been where he has to be the main guy in a power play. Can he drive a power play? I think, but what he will give you is minutes. He will eat minutes. He will play against the top player teams. He'll kill penalties, and just a great overall. And so I think Minnesota, I think the Wild got real lucky in getting him.
Yeah, because he's playing right now on a Gophers team who is if there's a team that I could pick right now to win the Big Ten, it's Minnesota. Because not just because Michigan lost so many players, but it's so, I mean, this, Pat, we've talked about this before. It's top heavy. It's very top heavy in the Big Ten. And I think Minnesota right now going in, even though last year they lost their number 1 goaltender in the middle of it, Jack LaFontaine signed with Carolina, they were still there towards the end.
I would agree with you with talent, but let's not forget. And I talked to.
We lost Pat Micheletti there. Let's see if we can try to get him back. Somehow had a slight connection error with Pat. Let's see if we can get him to jump on here in just a moment. I'll quick message him to see if he can get back, because we were obviously having a great conversation about the Minnesota Golden Gophers here on World Hockey Report, here on this free agent frenzy day. A contract that just got signed with the Florida Panthers. Nick Cousins signing a 2-year deal, according to Bobby Margaritaville. And so, yeah, no, it's certainly a good move there for the Florida Panthers. But I really like what the Panthers are doing now, because now they're signing depth. They're signing young players. And I really think that they're going to, like we mentioned, they haven't done a whole lot today, but that's because they can't do a whole lot. But they're doing little things. They do Colin White. They try that. We'll see if that works out for sure. We're going to take a quick pause here, guys. We're going to take a quick pause, and we're just going to get a couple things figured out. Don't worry. We won't be back too far. Just want to make sure that all of our connection stuff's good with Pat right after this here on World Hockey Report. All right, let's try this again. We're back here at World Hockey Report. We're going to stand by for Pat Micheletti to try to rejoin us here for just a little bit longer here, talking about the Minnesota Wild, Minnesota hockey, and more here on World Hockey Report on this busy day. Probably it's so busy, that's probably why all the internet's being worked up around the entire world, let alone North America, let alone Michigan, and of course, where Pat is, up in the great state of Minnesota. Not too many other signings really worth mentioning, though, at the moment. Nothing really huge. Obviously, it's kind of calmed down a little bit. Probably good for all of us here. Gives us a second to breathe and catch our breaths because, man, it's been crazy. Let's try this again here. We got him back here. We got Pat Micheletti. Pat, sorry about that, friend. We lost you. Oh, Pat, your mic's off. Can we hear you there, Pat? I can see you. No, his mic's not working. Panic. Something I did? Nope. Now he's off screen, but it's okay. We'll wait for him to come back here. But like I said, a couple other things that were going on today across the National Hockey League. We mentioned Juraj Slafkovsky right off the top of the show. That happened right as the show opened up. Slafkovsky signing his ELC with the Montreal Canadiens. Pat, can we hear you there, friend? Oh no, it's broken, Pat. We've broken the Pat, if that makes sense. But here, we'll pull you off, Pat, for a second. Let us know. Shoot me an email or shoot me a message here. I'll make sure we can get you back on here because we love talking with Pat Micheletti here on World Hockey Report. Phone's going off like crazy once again. What's going on over here? Madness all across the land. And now, like I say, I got myself an American League deal here. All right, let's try this one more time with Pat Micheletti. He's going to try to connect with us once again here in just a little bit. He's going to back out and try it again. That's okay. Madison Bowie, by the way, adding some defense depth with the Montreal Canadiens. He signs a two-way deal for $750K. Colin Blackwell, who was with the Toronto Maple Leafs last year after starting with the Seattle Kraken, he's with the Chicago Blackhawks now. 2-year, one-way contract at $1.2 million. We mentioned actually Mason Marchment earlier with Stephen Ellis talking about the Florida Panthers. He sticks it out now with the Dallas Stars. He was whispered and rumored to go to Carolina, but he actually goes to Dallas. Great contract for him, 4 years at $4.5 million. And now we're rejoined once again. Pat, can we hear you this time?
You got me.
There we are.
No, apologize.
Oh, I apologize. You know what? It's Pat. With my luck, it's my fault. But you know what? I'm gonna play the goalie card here. The puck's in the back of my net. It's my fault, not your fault, Pat. Because you were never at fault for your goaltenders getting scored on, right?
Never. No. Are you kidding? No, actually, I stayed in the offensive zone, Tyler.
You and Joe just hung out near the blue line and just waited for the guys to feed you the puck, right?
Exactly.
That big old Olympic ice you guys used to have it up in Minneapolis back in the day. Before we lost you there, Pat, we were talking about the Minnesota Gopher system there. We were talking about how they're going to be towards the top of the Big Ten. And I mean, the reason why we say that too is because there's so many great NHL ready prospects on this team. I mean, we mentioned LaFontaine, who in the middle of the year, Carolina's goalie situation was so bad, he got signed and he went to them and they still had a really good group and still behind after he left. I mean, name a couple of the guys we're going to be seeing in the NHL here soon.
Well, Matthew Nyes, and Matthew Nyes is another one. A lot of people, the Toronto Maple Leafs second round pick, or fourth round pick a year ago, both him and Brock, which I really commend them. And I hope others take notice of what they're doing. Are both guys ready to play in the National Hockey? But they both understand that there's more to just wanting to get to that next level too fast. They both understand that they work on their game a little bit, get a little bigger, get a little stronger, all of those things that come into it. And I commend them for coming up. You've mentioned, Logan Cooley, the third pick overall, probably could have signed with with the third pick overall. He's his skill level is off the charts. But you know what? He's only 18, and when you're going up against 25, 26-year-old guys who have been around, that little grizzle to them.
Oh no, we lost Pat. Pat ran away. Oh no. Oh, poor Pat. Oh, that's a bummer too. I don't know. Let's say what's going on here today with our connection with Pat Micheletti. We do apologize for any technical difficulties we are having. Let's say bummer for Pat. Let's see if I can actually, let's try something here. Try to get him by the phone, because I think we can get him by the phone here, because that might work a little bit better. Because remember, on an old show we had this problem before, because this might be a little bit easier than trying to keep on connecting with the connection issues that we're having here. Give me a second. Yeah. Pull out the old trusty earbuds, because I don't need these when we're doing video. See, so we're gonna try to get them on via phone here. To wrap things up here with Pat Micheletti, we're joining. Thank you all for sticking with us here on World Hockey Report. Be sure to jump in the chat as well, guys. Where is Johnny Gaudreau going? Hello, Charles. No, we did not lose connection, Charles. Where is Johnny Gaudreau going? Johnny Gaudreau sounds like the New Jersey Devils. That is what we are hearing so far. That's been the whispers, the word. We've been hearing that's potentially the move we're going to see, because it obviously, yes, there was the whole Philadelphia Flyers tie-in, because that's where he's from. And then there was the New York Islanders jumping into the conversation. But unfortunately, that was not the case. That was now all of a sudden the Devils, and the New Jersey Devils, they're seeming like they're holding off making any more moves. They did sign Brendan Smith, try to help out that defense core a little bit, because that might be the right maneuver to get him on board, because to get a little bit, to convince Johnny Gaudreau, because you need to have a better team there. PK Subban, of course, is going to stay on the market here for a little bit. I don't expect him to sign nearly it was at $9 million. So not a bad move at all here by the Devils, and they're trying to make sure they can make it work. Now, Johnny Gaudreau is apparently still fielding phone calls, but nothing is set in stone yet for him and the signing officially. And we're also waiting to hear what's going to happen with Nazem Kadri. That's another name we haven't talked about a whole lot yet here on today's program, because, well, we're not sure exactly what is going to happen with Kadri, because what we heard at 12:01 was that he was fielding multiple, and I mean multiple, phone calls, because there is a guy that certainly earned a lot of people's respects for how he ended up, for how he played this year, and for all that he went through in the playoffs. Yes, I know there's a lot of people that have presumptions on how he's played in the past, the type of player he's been in the past, but what he has done over the last little while is incredible from my perspective. I mean, I know, yes, I'm biased because I saw him. I'm a London Knights fan, cheered for him when he was in Toronto. I understand all the hoopla. I understand that. But here's my thing. If he was not this good, he would not be sitting here today without a contract yet. Because I say yet, because obviously he's getting like his old London Knights teammate, John Tavares, multiple offers. I don't think they're having the big carousel like we saw outside of New York, not New York, LA, back in 2018 now? It was 2018. My goodness. Talk about today feeling old. That's me, Tyler Kuehl. But man, that was a long time ago. But that's what I'm saying. Nazem Kadri has earned that ability to get multiple people calling about him here. And you're right. He might get what people perceive as overpaid. But that's what happens when you have great years and you're only making chump change before that. So yeah, he's going to get a good hefty pay raise. And don't expect Johnny Gaudreau either to not get a huge pay raise as well, because the New Jersey Devils, without that $9 million cap hit of PK Subban on their books anymore, they have that money to give to Johnny Hockey. Now, how long is that going to be is the big question. Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau wants to go to a team that's a winner, but obviously the Devils, I think the Devils are right there on that point of they get a goaltender. Sorry, Mackenzie Blackwood, you're almost there, but not there yet. You get a goaltender, a little bit deeper on defense, and you have yourself at least a playoff team. Because this was a team that was dragged to the playoffs by Taylor Hall one year, but almost single-handedly with, what was that, Schneider and Kincaid I mean, that pairing was awful. So yeah, don't sleep. Do not sleep on the New Jersey Devils with Johnny Hockey on board, because I think that with him, Jack Hughes up front, I mean, they're gonna have. I mean, Yegor Saragovich. I think there's another guy that's gonna be, continuing to evolve and to get better as the years goes on for him. I like where the Devils are standing right now. I'm just trying to see if there's any other contracts that have come through. Obviously, everyone's trying to get everything done so they can get ready for a long weekend. Maybe, I don't know. It's only Wednesday, so like I said, a couple other ones. Nick Patan was official. Minnesota with a few signings actually. Stephen Fogarty, Andre Schuster, and Brandon Baddock all signing two-way deals for the Wild. Phoenix Copley going to the LA Kings. He's going to be in their system, probably going down to Ontario. Signs and maybe not. He signs a one-way deal at $825,000. Hello, waivers coming up here. I mentioned Greg McKegg going to the Oilers earlier with Janner at 2 years at $762,500. Very specific indeed. Looks like we're not going to be able to get Pat Micheletti back because, man, that was Pat Micheletti and I. Fun little story here. There was one time I had him on my show. We did a recording. And I think we ended up doing a show. We had him on for it was 45 minutes on the air, but I think we talked for like another hour afterwards, just about random stuff, because I myself am a big college hockey buff and love to do it myself. And I broadcast college hockey myself. So it's always fun when we get to go down memory lane a little bit when we discuss, Minnesota Golden Gophers hockey or Minnesota State and whatnot. And the NCAA tournament, obviously, Pat was on some pretty good teams with the Gophers back in his day. But here in just a couple minutes, we're going to be joined by Peyton Turnage, talk about the National Predators. We're going to have him be a phone because, I guess the video chat's not working out too well for us today. We're having a couple issues, even we had it with Jana earlier on. So we'll have that here in just a little bit. Be sure to jump in the chat, though, guys, and let us know what you think of what has happened today so far. Who has been your big signing? Who do you think maybe should have been signed for less? Who should have been signed for more? Who needs to be signed and who should not have been signed? Let us know what you guys think in the comment section, and be sure to follow us, guys, at World Hockey RPT. Mention also, guys, why not book a trip with your dream sporting event with Sports Travel Tours? They have NHL trips as well as the Spangler Cup, the NFL, Formula One, Premier League packages, and more at sportstraveltours.com. One of the other, we've mentioned we're going to talk about this with Peyton too, the trade for Tony DeAngelo to Philadelphia. I had a conversation with Mary Clark of the Locked On Network last week. She put out a really good article about it. I don't know why that move was made. I don't know what the decision-making was behind that maneuver, but I was not a fan of it at all. I really thought that Tony DeAngelo I'm sorry. For me, it's the guy. And before you say, but it's a good hockey move, he's a good hockey player. Well, I'm sorry, guys. There's a reason why he's not a Ranger anymore. 1 year after getting Norris votes. He got Norris votes, and he still got kicked off the team because nobody wanted to play with him. So, yeah, sorry that I was not too much of a fan of the maneuvers there. Looking back down to the chat. How do you think Detroit did today, Dan? I think Detroit did great today, Dan. And you know what? Dan, if you stay tuned here at the end of the show here, so around a little after 5 o'clock, close to 5 o'clock, got a little bit of a tease for next week's show. If you like the Wings, you'll like what we talk about in that retrospect, because got someone coming on the show to talk about the Detroit Red Wings a little bit. That'll be fun. But like I said, guys, we got a little bit more to go, a little bit more to dive into today. So with that, allow us to bring on our final guest here on today's show, God willing. Of course, then again, if anyone else decided to call me and yell about stuff, I'd be willing to take it for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a freelance, free agent, play-by-play broadcaster like myself. He is none other than a guy that's in Indiana right now from Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Peyton Turnage. Peyton, how you doing today, sir?
Wow, you knew I was still in Indiana. Yeah, I didn't get out of Indy quick enough, and so I'm stuck in traffic. But otherwise, I'm doing great. Also, Detroit called me to come play for them, so I'm really excited.
What are you gonna be? You're getting a two-way minimum wage contract?
No, they're going one way. They want me to be their backup. So it's gonna be me and Nedeljkovic rolling.
So what? They're just gonna kick Billy Husso right after they sign him, Peyton? Is that what's gonna happen now?
Exactly. They're going to go to Toronto just like Jesse Blake wanted him to.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? I want to hear your thoughts. Obviously, you and we listened to the Steve Dangle podcast, and Jesse Blake was angry because he thought Billy Husso was coming to Toronto, but instead they get Matt Murray, and then obviously they signed Ilya Samsonov today. What is your thoughts on these goalie situation in the 6?
Good luck. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of potential there, but like I have the potential to be an astronaut. You know, I don't know. I mean, Matt Murray is a guy that's done it. He has 2 cups that he won virtually himself, even though Marc-Andre Fleury was there part of that too. But man, oh man, he's really. And then you look at the Leafs. Have they hired a new goaltending coach?
Oh gosh, I thought so. I could be wrong.
They're changing their tandem with 2 goalies that are question marks, and you have a new goalie coach on top of it. So if you're Kyle Dubas, and they talked about this on the Steve Dangle pod too, if you're Kyle Dubas and Brendan Shanahan, you better hope this works out, or you are gone.
Curtis Sanford. That's who they signed.
Oh, great.
St. Louis Blues legend Curtis Sanford.
Blues, the Vancouver Canucks. Oh yeah. The Leafs goaltending is in.
There's nothing, Peyton. There's nothing like a guy that should be a coach than a guy that has almost double-digit teams under his resume.
Well, it's true. I mean, I don't know if you can hear me. Hold on. It's true. I mean, you look at all the goalie coaches across the league. I mean, how many of them are Vezina winners? Like, how many Vezinas did Mitch Korn win? So maybe I'm a little. Maybe I'm being a little too crass about my boy Curtis Sanford.
Well, okay. It's almost like who's the best? Like Billy Ranford might have been the most successful NHL goalie coach ever. Like goalie that was a goalie before that became a goalie coach. Like him because he's won the Stanley Cup and a Conn Smythe Trophy. Like Sean Burke is great, but Sean Burke is no more than a consultant. But also he never won a cup. At least Billy Ranford did. Like that's why. Like that's the thing. Like it's always say those who can't play coach. Ranford is literally the outlier in this scenario, to your point.
And then Patrick Waugh just ran right up the chain of command and was a head coach, which I don't know how many goalie head coaches there are, but
not many. Well, okay, you're telling me that Patrick Waugh in the province of Quebec literally just couldn't just go up and knock on a door of some team and say, you know what? I played for Montreal for a long time. I want to coach here. Whatever you say, Mr. Waugh, here's the keys to the castle.
Here are the keys to the Pepsi Colisée.
Hey, you're telling me that if he walked to I mean, obviously with Marty St. Louis just getting signed now, but like, you don't think if he ever went back to Centre Bell and knocked on the door to Jeff Molson and said, Jeff, I'm coming back. You don't think Jeff would fire everyone and bring Patrick Waugh in?
I don't know, man.
Like he has more power than Justin Trudeau. In the province of Quebec. Let's be honest here.
Well, I mean, anyone's got more power than Justin Trudeau in the province of Quebec, because Quebec kind of wants to just be their own nation. But
that was Pierre Trudeau. Peyton, get your Canadian history right.
Well, don't they want out again?
Not as much. But Dylan Kaiser saying crazy fee agency so far. How much are we paying for this, Dylan? If it's fee agency, Peyton's not paying to be us on the show, else we make a lot more money. Peyton, let's get to Nashville here. All right. By the way, the Bruins have announced they are signing a 1-year, 2-way contract for Connor Carrick. Good to hear the part-time hockey player, full-time podcaster Connor Carrick getting an opportunity to play in the NHL still, at least being in the NHL system. But let's go with Nashville here, Peyton. By the way, I know you're heartbroken. David Riddick signing earlier with the Winnipeg Jets, so I know you're bummed that he's not there anymore. But Ryan McDonagh coming to Nashville here. Yes, he's older. Yes, he's maybe past his prime by a few years. But, you know, for a team that that's not the defense core that we saw 5 years ago, how important do you think bringing a Stanley Cup champion like McDonagh is to this lineup in Nashville?
It's absolutely important. He makes a significant contribution no matter what team he signs with. We're talking a former captain. We're talking, I believe, a former Olympian, if not close. He would be an Olympian today if Team USA had NHLers. And we're talking perhaps, I mean, I don't think I'm going too far out of left field to say that he is definitely a top 10 shutdown defenseman in the league. And that signified to me, along with the Philip Forsberg contract, that David Poile still believes that they can compete. And they're really one or two moves away from still challenging in the Central Division, especially when you look at the rest of the teams comparatively. But McDonough's going to step in, be a leader right away. He probably won't get a letter on his chest as of yet, just because of the current leadership core. But the Predators' defense has been lacking defensively on the right side, with the exception of Alex Carrier. And with Ekholm and Yossi already on the left side, I guess you kind of have to shoehorn McDonough over to the right. But that is just such a huge difference on the defensive side to get him into the lineup. And it was definitely a shock when that happened.
Yeah, because that was the one problem. I mean, especially when Ryan Ellis left, and of course everyone was trying to ship Matthias Ekholm out of there, and it's gonna. I don't think many people are expecting Nashville to be the world beaters, but now you look at this way, Peyton. It feels like on this July 13th that we're having this conversation, albeit with the re-signing of Forsberg, with the addition of a veteran defenseman like Ryan McDonough, with the still intact goaltending tandem of UC Saros and Connor Ingram. It's hard to not look at, especially with how the Minnesota Wild are going to be possibly this year. There's optimism that Nashville should be in the top 3 again, right?
I would say top 3, top 2. It really depends on how things go from here on out. When you look at that top line, of course, you've got Forsberg, you've got Duchesne, you've got Ryan Johansson. Now the question is that second line. Ellie Tolvanen didn't quite work out. Luke Cunnin didn't work out, and he was traded to San Jose. You still have Mikhail Granlund, and then you've got guys like Cody Glass and Philip Tomasino coming up who are potentially second-line guys. You've got to find someone to fill up that left side spot. David Poile the other day on the radio said, I believe it was actually yesterday, that long-term contract may not be in the cards with the current Preds money situation. Right now, they got $9.6 million of cap space. They've still got to give new contracts to Jakob Trenin and John Leonard. He really wanted to go short-term, and that's where a guy like David Perron could have come into play. But it said he goes 2 years, about $5 million, I think $4.5 million to Detroit.
Right.
Now you look at who is left. You've got Andre Palat. You've got the Strome brothers and a few others in there, but those are the main 3 in my mind. Now, it came out today, and they were kind of beating this around on 102.5 Nashville, the flagship station of the Predators, that they might do another McDonough-type situation of taking advantage of a team that's cash-strapped. The team in this case is the Vegas Golden Knights, with one of either Max Pacioretty or Jonathan Marchessault. So Pacioretty has 1 year, $7 million left, and Vegas has to clear cap space to re-sign Riley Smith.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard Pacioretty, Peyton. That's seemingly being the front runner right now for their offloading moves, because of the fact that it's an easier move than Marchessault, because of the fact that it's won by $7 million.
And again, like the McDonough trade, really wasn't much going the other way. You give Grant Mishmash, who was a mid-range prospect, and Philip Myers, who getting him off the books was just an absolute miracle. It's not out of the realm of possibility that you can do that once again in this trade with Vegas. I want to go back to the McDonough trade real fast. Poile mentioned in his interview on the radio yesterday that the trade did, as we may have all thought, did come out of nowhere. It was actually McDonough's agent that called him, letting him know that this was a possibility. And if you're David Poile, how do you pass up on that?
You don't, because like I said, veteran defenseman, veteran Stanley Cup winning defenseman. He left-handed, but you can make that try to work with your lineup. So I like that move by David Poile, because let's be honest, Peyton, you were on the fritz about being a Preds fan because of ownership or whatever. But the fact of the matter was that you didn't know which way this team was going. But now they've obviously tried to secure their future a little bit by Forsberg and whatnot. So, and like I said, they still have two of the youngest they probably have the youngest goaltending tandem in the league now. So outside of Arizona, but that's a different discussion for a different time. But I mean, you can't not like what they're doing right now.
And you add to it what they did at the draft, getting Joakim Kamel, who many picked to be top 10, about 7th place, and they get him at number 17. Now that happened back in, I believe, 2016 or 17 with Ellie Tolvanen, and people had him top 15 and he fell to 28th. But I still feel optimistic about having Joakim Kamel, who apparently is a very good shooting winger. So the Predators are checking all the boxes. They brought back Forsberg. They brought in the veteran defenseman. Hopefully they get a good top six forward. Otherwise, I think that's really going to derail their season. They're shaping up, and they're for real. They know what they need to do. They're getting rid of the right guys. They let guys like Nick Cousins, Matt Benning walk in free agency. Ben Harper. They traded Luke Cunningham, like I said before. Which, by the way, it's hilarious that now Luke Cunningham and Nick Bonino are on the same team. But the Preds are checking the boxes of all the summer wish list right now. So they're not quite there, but they're doing all the right things. And we've had our doubts about David Poile. Sometimes he can be Mr. Old Boys Club and kind of stick to what he's familiar with. But so far, so good with Poile.
Yeah, and Poile I know has been, up and down with what's the word I'm looking for here, in the polls, in the appreciation polls, or whatever I don't know what the heck they're called, the fan polls, whatever. People have been up and down on whether or not they like David Poile. It depends on the day. It depends if they win or lose, it seems like, with the Nashville Predators.
Rating?
What?
The approval rating?
Approval rating. Thank you very much. Yes, from the news anchor guy himself forgets it. Literally, I just don't forget, folks, whenever I do the news, I literally just read words. I don't actually, I'm honest to goodness, I'm anchor man. I sit there and I just read the prompt. I read everything, can't change the prompt, or else I'm going to say something very bad towards the city of San Diego. It's great. We're here with Peyton Turnage, broadcaster and guy that's stuck in traffic right now. And what are you on, 69 right now?
Well, I'm on 69 and I'm going 69, so it's double nice.
Oh, there you go. It's starting to get up that way. The reason why I know where he is, folks, because Peyton is actually coming up north with us this weekend. We go to our buddy Harrison Watt's wedding, and I'm going to try to teach Peyton how to play golf. So that's going to be something. That's going to be something that might hit the World Hockey Report social medias, Peyton, just letting you know.
Yeah, I'll be starting World Golf Report pretty soon.
Sir, World Golf Report with Peyton Turnage. Peyton, what are you using? A golf club. How far are you going to hit it? Straight. It's going to be cutting edge reporting from Peyton Turnage. But, out of all the moves today, I don't know how much you've been able to pay attention today, Peyton. I know you've been doing other things, which I'll ask about here before we sign off here. But what move has really been, I don't want to say shocking, but kind of one that made you go, whoa, what is this? I mean, because yes, Jack Campbell getting signed by Edmonton, that was pretty much seemingly something that was going to be happening and pretty much set in stone at about 6:00 yesterday. But there's been a lot of other moves. I mean, I say Claude Giroux for me was the biggest one that I said, wow, I was not ready for him to actually go to Ottawa. What is Peyton Turnage's big stunner so far today?
I think the magnitude of the signings by Detroit. We knew they would kind of go big because they have the cap space, but you look at just everyone they're snatching up. And I think the biggest surprise to me has to be Ben Sherratt. What was it, 4 years? I think 4.8 per season. Is that right?
4.75. But yeah, you're close. Yeah.
4.75. Close enough, rounding up. But they are just snatching guys up left and right. And, they've been kind of sitting around as this young team with potential. And now Stevie Yzerman's putting veterans in the right places to help these young guys succeed. So Detroit might be shaping up for a good run here. As far as a signing in your quotes, what's that? I mean, it's got to be Eric Branson to Columbus, right? 4 years, $16 million contract. I mean, how is he still in the league? 2, how is he making anything above $1 million, let alone 4 per season? That just does not make sense to me. I tweeted earlier that it really reminded me of the 2012 offseason when Florida signed Philip Kuba, 4 years, $16 million. And I remember thinking, okay, this lockout is inevitable. And kind of makes me feel that way again today.
Don't start that, Peyton. Do not bring that up. I mean, we have 4 more years before the CBA ends. If you start bringing up the word lockout now, I'm going to throw my phone out the window and hopefully never hear from you again.
Well, it at least makes me lose my faith in humanity, which may have gone out the window long before that anyway.
Well, yeah, that's I mean, I don't know what you say. That's neither here nor there. I mean, I lost my I work in news radio, folks. I have no faith in humanity. We're all gonna die. It's gonna be great. By the way, in case you're curious, folks, why it's such a big deal, that's $4 million per season for Eric Goodbranson. He is now the second highest paid defenseman for the Columbus Blue Jackets, only behind Zach Werenski, and it's only by $4.5 million, $5.5 million, excuse me. So, in case you're curious on how, I don't want to say how light the Blue Jackets are defensively, but when Eric Goodbranson, your second highest paid defenseman there, Peyton, yeah, expectations are low there in the state capital of the state down south.
Well, especially when you look at Columbus, they've just been trying to get in on all these big names out there. Jacob Chikrin, the biggest one that comes to mind. And I can't remember, there was one trade recently, I can't think of who it was, that apparently Columbus was in on too. Oh, okay, we'll just miss out on that and sign Eric Branson instead. That's a good consolation prize.
Like, you're telling me you couldn't get him at $2 million?
I guess his agent's just laughing all the way to the bank. It's kind of like when the Leafs signed Jeff Finger.
Jeff Finger. That was the best part about that contract. I remember he signed, was it $4 million when he signed for?
4 years. It was something pretty substantial.
And I saw him with the Marlies. His last year of his contract, he was with the Marlies. I saw him in Grand Rapids like 5 times. And I'm like, a $4 million defenseman in Grand Rapids. Look at that.
And it was mistaken identity because the Leafs thought they were signing Kurt Sauer.
Clearly. Matt Sauer. That's who they thought they signed. You remember Matt Sauer, right?
I don't remember Matt Sauer.
Matt Sauer, he played for Colorado. He was a Michigan boy.
That's Kurt Sauer.
What?
That's Kurt Sauer.
No, it's Matt Sauer.
Okay, you can look it up and be wrong.
Matt Sauer. Holy cow! There's a baseball Matt Sauer too. Oh, it's Mike. Was it Mike Sauer? Oh, it was Mike Sauer. That's who it was. Okay. There was a Craig Sauer, yes. There was a football player named Craig Sauer.
Look up Kurt Sauer, K-U-R-T, Kurt.
Kurt Sauer. He didn't play for the Wolverines, but he did play for Colorado. Then who did Matt? I thought Matt played for Colorado too, or Mike played for Colorado too. No, he played for the Rangers. Holy moly. Good thing.
Kurt Sauer was the guy that in this story. I don't know who he played college for.
I'm going to start being like a sourpuss here in a little bit. Let's see here. What do we got here? Let's look at the chat here. Ed Pottinger says Detroit is going to be good this season. Gotta love Stevie Y. Not a Detroit fan, but an elite player doing a fine job as GM is cool. I agree with you there 100% there, Ed, because you want to know why? A guy that was a former elite player, now a current GM, just won the Stanley Cup, by the way, Joe Sakic. So, you know what? Maybe Wayne Gretzky didn't ruin it for everybody, Peyton. Maybe there are former elite players that can go into management and coaching and do a good job.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about, Stevie Y. What about the team that he was formerly with and some of the moves they've made? Signing Sergachev to, 8 years, 8 point something, 8.5, 8.9?
8 years. I have it written down right here. Where is it? 8 years at $8.5 million. Anthony Cirelli at 8 by $6.25 million. Eric Chernak 8 by $5.2. That's why I asked the question. Like when we were talking to Stephen Ellis earlier on in the show in hour 1, I remember I asked him, I'm like, so how bad are the Tampa Bay Lightning going to be in 2031? Like, this is going to be a team that's going to be good for the next few years. Let's not knock that around here. Victor Hedman's still there. Stamkos, Kucherov, obviously still Cirelli. Yes, they're going to lose Andre Palat here. We're still waiting to hear where he's going to go. But they still have in goal. They still have Vasilevsky. Whoever they want to put at their backup, Brian Elliott, who cares? It doesn't really matter when you have 88 in net for them. They're going to be good. But at the end of these contracts, there's going to be problems, right?
Aren't there problems right now? I mean, where's the cap at right now?
Let's have a look-see here. Actually, you know what? Let's just go to the big cap-friendly page where right now we have spent $729 million today. As it stands right now, Tampa's still at the top. They have over $6.5 million over the cap.
Over?
Over the cap, yes.
And they are still needing to give contracts to Cernak and company. I thought you couldn't, because this is where Philadelphia is trying to sign Johnny Gaudreau. I thought you couldn't go over the cap. Well, I guess there's LTIR that they're going to plug in, but I thought they can't sign Gaudreau because they can't move out the cap space. Am I incorrect?
Well, no,
you can sign the guy and then move out the cap.
No, you can have you can spend as much as you want, but there's a certain date, I think in is it September or August, that you have to actually get it down to the respectable number for the cap hit. And it seems like with all these moves, because right now they have it set, they're all locked up for this season. They have a full roster and everything, but I mean, I don't know. You think they're going to try to move Corey Perry? There's that. There's Brandon Hagel, who they just signed. So they probably not him, but Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is another guy that could get moved. Like, there's guys that they could move if they need to use as trade bait here to open up some space. But because as far as I know, I haven't heard anything about any guys going under the knife for long enough to use LTIR.
Well, as history proves, Tampa finds a way, don't they?
Well, I'm just saying, what are you going to, well, actually, no, they're going to have, they are actually paying. I forgot about this. They are going to have $6.875 million used of LTIR because they have Brent Seabrook's contract on the books.
Okay. I knew he was still there, but.
So that would put him under the cap as of right now.
I think there's another guy they have. Maybe I remember Arizona had the corpse of Marian Hossa, but.
At one point they had like the best three players in hockey. They had Chris Pronger, Pavel Datsyuk, and Marian Hossa all on the same team. You talk about all the problems with tampering or whatever. How about Arizona just not having a real team? No offense to Adam Bonilla, but I'm talking about like not having players that actually play on your team.
I was going to say, is there a dead cap Hall of Fame? There should be.
Well, no, like Pavel Datsyuk. I mean, now Pavel Datsyuk, who's recently actually retired, I believe now it's going to be interesting to see what happens because it's hard for me not to think that he's going to go to the Hall of Fame in 3 years. But
wait, so Alexander Semin had a farewell game, but Pavel Datsyuk didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he's not as close with the upper echelon there with the Kremlin. I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm not even going to try to figure out what's going on there. By the way, Oscar Dansk signing goaltending depth for the Calgary Flames, 1 year, 2-way deal at $750K. That just came through as well. Also, like I mentioned, Nick Cousins. Also, how mad are you going that Nick Cousins is going south of Florida there?
I'm just relieved he's no longer in gold.
He's gonna be in blue and red and gold.
That's fine. He can go. That's totally okay. So, and I got in an argument on Twitter with Nashville writer Gallagher. I can't. His first name escapes me at the moment. But
Noel Gallagher from Oasis. Here's Wonderwall.
Maybe his name was just Gallagher, and he smashes watermelons. But
Gallagher.
Anyway, Michael Gallagher. My goodness, I'm friends with him. It's been one of those days.
Good friend you are. I don't remember people's names. What's my name? Jesus. No, I don't know.
Alex. I was saying that I got in an argument with him because he had
Peyton
did not.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Sorry, I went under a overpass. He had the checklist for the Preds off season and still had the check of releasing Matt and Nick Cousins still out there unchecked, which I got in an argument with him about that. But that you should go ahead and just consider them gone. And now it's official with Cousins going to Florida. So that's I'm very relieved.
Adam Bonilla jumps in there saying those dead contracts we had got us Lawson Crouse and Jacob Chikrin. Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad reason to have some bad contracts there, Adam. Good point there. Obviously, Jacob Chikrin still being whispered to be on the trade market. Brandon Carlini comes in here saying, sad day to call myself a Flames fan. Obviously, Calgary hasn't done a whole lot today. The only really notable one that I think we saw earlier was Kevin Rooney coming on for $1.3 million for the next couple of years. Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau not citing that it was a family decision. They tried everything they could to make it work, but obviously it doesn't. This really opens up the door for future problems because that might mean Matthew Tkachuk next year might test the free agency market, and then there's going to be other guys that are going to jump in there. It's not going to be a good day. Ed Pottinger says day is not over yet. That's 100% true. You know what's going to happen, Peyton? We're going to go off the air here in about 5 minutes, and Johnny Gaudreau is going to sign with the New Jersey Devils, and Andre Palat's going to sign with the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, how are the Kraken getting all these guys too?
Well, they have the space, and Ron Francis probably realized, man, that sucked last year. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, Alexander True not exactly working out for them.
Nope.
Who is here's a little nugget. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but it'd be wonderful. Who's going to offer sheet Matthew Tkachuk?
Carolina Hurricanes. No, I don't know. It's got to be a team with cap space, and I mean, I don't team with cap space and draft picks. And before Adam Bonilla jumps in there, I don't think it's going to be Arizona. I'm not going to let Adam spoil that one for me. Why not? Why not Ottawa? Why not? This is that time frame where Eugene Melnyk, before he passed, said this was going to be around the time where they're going to start spending to the cap. Give up a couple picks to try to get Matthew Tkachuk to come back to Ontario? Why not?
I'll have both Tkachuks there with Alex DeBrincat. Man, Ottawa is all of a sudden just kind of climbing up the chart.
I mentioned it, man. The Atlantic Division, no offense to Montreal, but outside of Montreal, it's looking like a division that, I mean, you can pick who your top 3 teams are going to be, but that wild card spot, one of them is going to definitely go to the Atlantic this year. Maybe both, the way the Metropolitan is so split right now.
I'm just wondering who's going to work their way down. They were talking about that on TSN right before I jumped on here, and Craig Button is all over Toronto right now, how he thinks that they are not a contender at all, that Boston's going to slip out of the playoff.
Well, that's from Craig being a Calgary guy for so many years, but I don't, Peyton, I don't mean to be this guy, but here's how we're going to end the show today. Well, I'm going to mention we have an announcement to make before we let go here. Justin Braun being made official. This is not the big one, but I just got to mention this. Justin Braun, 1-year contract for $1.75 million, staying with the Philadelphia Flyers, or coming back to the Philadelphia Flyers, excuse me. But here is something that was just put out by Chris Johnson of TSN and Toronto Star. The whispers have been there all day. Columbus is lurking in the shadows of the Johnny Gaudreau sweepstakes. Could you imagine Peyton Turnage, Johnny Gaudreau going to Columbus?
No. I can't imagine that.
That would be nuts. Like, out of all this,
why?
it's going to be Philly. No, it's going to be the Islanders. No, it's going to be New Jersey. Columbus. Johnny Gaudreau is the most wanted player in the Metropolitan Division right now.
I feel like they've done this. I can't remember who it was. I mean, Nyquist comes to mind, but remember back when he was very sought after.
Oh my gosh. I remember 2014, 2015.
You've broken me, Tyler. I don't know how to react to that. And I'm sorry, Columbus fans, but I'm kind of praying that doesn't happen because I don't know what he sees there.
It's one of those things where it's like, what are they, if they're giving him $10 million? I mean, because I'll be honest, you talk about the teams that have been projected for Johnny Gaudreau before. We mentioned Philly, we mentioned the Islanders, we mentioned the Devils. 3 teams that, no offense to any of those fan bases in those teams right now, but they are not in the running for a Stanley Cup. Okay? Calgary is still the closest of those teams, and he elected not to stay with Calgary. And obviously, the dollar amount that he's asking for is not something that Stanley Cup contenders want to pay for. So he's obviously asking for a big bag of money. So that's why I'm really interested to see what this dollar amount could be if he goes to Columbus, because it might absolutely, you're right, Peyton, it might send us quickly into another lockout. Let's be honest here.
Well, and him leaving Calgary apparently wasn't about money. So why are you going to Columbus? That just startles me. That really, yeah.
Man, it's going to be crazy. Like I said, folks, it's going to break right after we go off the air here. We've been chatting up with Peyton Turnage here. And Peyton, you can stay on the line while I say this here. We do have an announcement for next week's show. I'm really excited about this because, yes, even though Cody Jansen thinks I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan nowadays, I'm not really. I was a fan when I was a kid. That's why, like I said, Chris Osgood. I have a Vladimir Konstantinov jersey on the back of this chair. Steve Eisman over there, whatever, yada, yada. But next week, by the way, breaking news here. Hearing that Nino Niederreiter is going to New Jersey. So that's something, Peyton. Hearing whispers now of that just put out there by Ed Pottinger, which would certainly
be north of $5 million.
What?
Does he make north of $5 million? That's going to be interesting.
Well, they have, like I mentioned this before. I'm talking about PK Subban's contract not being on the books anymore. They have the room, so that'll be an interesting move indeed. But here's the announcement we're going to make. Next Wednesday, we're going to have a legend in the eyes of Red Wings fans and someone that I've wanted to have conversations with for years. We are going to have next week, not a live show. I do apologize. Not going to be live. We have to record it ahead of time. Don't be mad at me. Just understand that, we're both very busy guys. Myself and our guest. We're going to have none other than number 25, Darren McCarty, on next week's show to talk about the old rivalry between the Red Wings and the Avs and his time with Detroit and what he's up to nowadays. Darren McCarty, one of my favorites. I got to tell my aunt now because now she's going to want to watch the show. And obviously Peyton, with the popularity of the Unrivaled documentary that E60 did, it's going to, for me, I have so many questions.
Be a really good one. He is an entertainer in every form of the word, and he was fantastic in that documentary. So congrats on getting to the show. That's really going to be a good one.
Yeah, I really hope so because I have years of questions to ask that guy. Because not just, him with Claude Lemieux and how they're buddies nowadays. I'm talking what was it like playing in Detroit and his relationship with Chris Osgood, who's one of my favorite goaltenders. And there's so honestly, I've been told we can only do 30 minutes with him, but I'm going to try to jam as much as I can into 30 minutes because it could probably be like 4 hours. It'll be something else. But we have to end it here, folks, because it's been 2 hours and it's been pretty quiet, which means Johnny Gaudreau is going to sign at 5:05 Eastern time, 3:05 Mountain time for all of you folks in Alberta and Saskatchewan. But we've been chatting with Peyton Turnage. Peyton, thank you very much for jumping on the show, man, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Bless you, boys. What a show.
Bless you. Okay, Joe Bowen. Thanks very much, buddy. Appreciate that. But thank you all very much, folks, for watching here on World Hockey Report at World Hockey RPT. Be sure to follow me, the Inside of the Insiders, Tyler Kuehl, at TJKU29. Be sure to tweet at us and tell us what you think of the big moves of the day and whatnot. And make sure you check out as well ProRocc.com. Make sure you check out Sports Travel Tours as well and SeatGeek. Get awesome deals through World Hockey Report as well. Like I said, guys, we'll be back next Wednesday with Darren McCarty and some other news as well and other sightings here on World Hockey Report. You guys all have yourselves a wonderful day. Enjoy the weekend and be good to each other. It's a nice way. Be good. Be nice.